Hi, I'm Nicholas Wallwork. I'm going to talk to you today about sourcing and qualifying a large development site for potential for development. If you like this channel, please do subscribe and hit the like button. We really value your comments and we really value you following us so we can give you more educational content on the channel. I love hearing what you guys are up to, so please let me know what you're up to and how I can help, what you'd like to see on the channel. I'll try and cover it in future videos. So in terms of finding a site for development potential, what should you be looking for? We're always baffled by all the kind of different property strategies out there. There's rent to rent, there's serviced accommodation, there's corporate lets, there's asylum seeker lets, there's working with council tenants, there's hotels, guest houses, care homes, all sorts of things out there that people are doing with their property strategies. And I think you've got to get comfortable really with your own level of work that you want to put into a project. How hands-on and how hands-off do you want to be? There are much more intensive strategies like, literally like running an actual care home, service accommodation, even a medium-sized building that might have, sleep 10 people. That's a full-time job almost, running that, if you're running it yourself, if you don't use a managing agent. And it can be quite hard to find a managing agent for service apartment lets because it's very, very intensive. A daily turnover in 10 rooms, potentially, or 10 studios or whatever, that's a heck of a lot of work. That's a lot of cleaning. It's at least 10 hours cleaning, an hour a unit, potentially, just on that every single day. So, make sure you kind of work out what your end strategy is first, ideally, and try and have multiple exit strategies. So, for example, we generally do young professional lets, people in their sort of 20s to 40s usually, contractors that come to the area, people that live in the local area, and they're either want, starter homes, starter apartments. They might want HMOs at the slightly cheaper end of that market. That's the entry point for a house share when you're coming out and you're maybe in your 20s and early 30s. Into micro studios or studios, and then into something like I'm stood behind here, one of my client sites, a 30,000 square foot office to resi scheme that we've been building for them. So, and these are 1 and 2 bed apartments, starter homes on Help to Buy. So whichever rung you look at and you're going to develop for, just have your exits in mind at the end, and can it be used for other things? So we do the young professionals, as I said, but it could also, we spec them up so we can do corporate lets with them. And also, if we needed to go for sort of the council end or a housing association end, we've overkilled it a bit at the start, but if we get a long 20-year lease on it, fantastic, we'll rent to them as well. So we've got like 2 or 3 exits minimum usually on most of our sites. In terms of sourcing, a big development site, it's key to get on there with all the commercial agents, focus on an area. I drive the streets and I see buildings, and if I see a for let sign or a for sale sign up there, I'm taking a picture of it and calling the agent, is this for sale? Can this be bought? What's the story of the building? How long has it been vacant? Is there an opportunity there to help the landlord out that might have been vacant for many months, especially coming out of the back of COVID and things like that? Can we help them take it off their hands and possibly, transform it and recycle it into another form of property and into residential? Now, I also like to invest on the fringes of good towns. I don't like to go in central London or bigger towns like that because it's so competitive. And with the higher prices, the yields are a lot lower. So it's a lot harder to make the margins work. I usually go for sort of secondary towns. So, if you're picking big towns like Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, I'd be on the smaller towns around these places, or in the southeast, the smaller towns around that are easily commutable to the bigger towns, maybe only 15, 20 minutes to a mainline station to London, for example, and maybe 15 minutes, you want to be close enough to be feeling in a nice location that someone wants to live. So you get the best of both worlds, really. It's that commutability and transport links. Where I live and in the Thames Valley area, we've got the M3, the M4, the M40, and we're 25 minutes less than that, I think, into Paddington from Reading, where we're based. And so, that's got great opportunity for lots of different housing all around these areas. And similarly, if you're up in the north, if you're in between Manchester and Liverpool, in one of those towns around there, you're going to have some great opportunities in the slightly smaller towns, which suit the yield. There's less competition, because you can't compete with the big boys, the big funds, investment funds, pension funds, overseas investors. They've got tons of capital and they're piling it into the big, handful of towns in the UK. One of the other important things to think about when you're getting into your first site is what size do you go for? What size of lot? Now, when you're sourcing, the most important tip I can give you for sourcing is be specific about what you want. You want to go to the agents and the commercial agents and all of your networking and sourcing contacts and on LinkedIn and Facebook groups, go on there and say what you want. I'm looking for up to 5,000 square foot in the Thames Valley area up to a price of £1 million. And I wanted to, a residential development opportunity or a commercial conversion opportunity. Say those things. It sounds obvious, right? We all know that's what we want, or what is the site you want. But tell people, go out there, market yourself, put it out there everywhere. Are you a sourcing agent? Just do it today. Go on Facebook, on one of the Facebook UK property groups. Calling all agents and sourcing agents. I am after X, Y, Z in this location, this price point, this level. You'd be surprised, you'll get stuff back. And then if you don't, you're going to make new connections from those agents and those sourcing agents and people on there that become part of your network. You need to build a list of that to go out there and find more sites. What size should you go for? Well, it really depends on where you are in your journey, doesn't it? If you're just starting out, I wouldn't recommend going for 30,000 square foot. This has taken me years to build up to this level of site. Didn't do this overnight. This is 20 years of hard work, starting small and doing more and more development sites until we could get bigger and more comfortable with the team around us that can deliver these kind of sites. I've got 32 flats being delivered in Reading at the moment. We've just exchanged on those. We finished 42 apartments in Newbury, and the year before that another 27 apartments in Newbury. Now we're doing these 44 down here in Fleet in Hampshire. So that's the kind of size we look for. So we're really looking for sort of, for anyone out there that's a sourcing agent, by the way, here's my list. It's probably a minimum of 3,000 square foot, but up to 30,000 square foot. Price point, no real minimum, obviously, because it's going to be what it's going to be. But up to a purchase price of, I don't know, probably 3 to 4 million, we'd consider. And so, and we would like really the Thames Valley in the south of England, that kind of area. And it needs to be a residential opportunity. We would consider land with planning. Any sites with planning, we would be very, very interested in finding out. About those and see what the opportunity is. It could be a small build of a number of houses, it could be a backdoor plot, but it needs to be a reasonable size for us to get involved with the team that we've got to make use of our resources. Go and do the same in your networks today. Go and do what I've just done on this film. Go and ask for what you want, and if there's someone out there with it, great, let's go and do a deal. And if there's any site owners watching, we do JVs. So if you want to JV with us on your site, fantastic, let's go and do it. But if you don't go out there and ask for stuff, you're not proactive in your sourcing, you're not going to get anywhere. If you're sat on Rightmove, if it gets to Rightmove, it's already gone through all the local developers and builders and investors, and that's why the agents had to put it on Rightmove. Generally, don't get me wrong, occasionally goes on Rightmove. And all the best commercial conversions don't get on there at all because their commercial section is very small. And it usually goes through a smaller commercial agent locally that's maybe been managing the building for 20 years. It's not marketing it very well. They've popped it on their own site and they popped the board up. If they're lucky, they pop it on the States Gazette or somewhere like that, or Reala. So go and have a look on all those portals. Go and look out commercial property portals, log on to all of those, and commercial agents in the areas you work could be proactive about building that list and going and finding it. And one of the final tips I'd like to give you before we wrap this video up is, how do you decide if a site's got potential for you? What are you going to turn it into? How do you do that? I mean, that's a very creative process. That's actually probably the most creative and exciting part of the process that I love. I'm a very creative person, and I love designing the layouts. I love getting the floor plans out on the table, and drawing out, marking out the sketching. Where do I think the flats are going to go? Now, what's key? The first thing I go to when I'm sourcing a site, the first thing before even going to see it, is I'd see if they've got floor plans. And the most frustrating thing about a lot of commercial properties, and certainly when you're doing like HMOs and you're looking for just a house, like a family home to convert, a lot of the smaller agents, they don't bother putting on floor plans. That's so infuriating because you have to go on and go and look at it to find out that it's not suitable. But seeing the measurements on the floor plans, you want to know what your minimum sizes are. For a good double bedroom, in an HMO, you probably want to be sort of 12, 13, 14 square metres if you can get it. The minimum, of course, is 6.51 square metres for an HMO room, not including the ensuite. But that's pretty tiny, unless you've got an existing building or you're in an area where that will rent well. You want to be trying to push your bedroom size up to a decent level. Certainly 10 square metres plus an ensuite. Another couple of square metres is an okay double room. And so how do you assess that? Well, I guess you could get an architect. What you need is a friendly architect that's prepared to sketch you stuff up quite cheaply, because you can't be sketching stuff up on every development. So you've got to start to get a feel for the floor plans, laying them out, and what you think you might better get out of them. If you take a two-bed flat where you need 2 bedrooms, a lounge and a kitchen. So on the floor, if it's an existing building, some offices have walls in them. For example, we've just bought a care home down in Hampshire, and that one has got loads of rooms in it. So we're like, wow, those 4 rooms plus that one, that's a flat. Great, draw a circle around it, flat 1. You know, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as getting out a pen on the floor plans or on Photoshop or whatever, you know, bit of software you use online to go and sketch out your plans and see what you can work out. You can also do some really quick and dirty numbers. You know, let's say we've got, I don't know, 30,000 square foot, you know, office building like we've got here that we are in the middle of almost finished converting. We're not far away, we're weeks away from practical completion. 30,000 square foot, let's say an apartment is, you know, 600 square foot, what's 30,000 divided by 600? You know, that's how many apartments you're going to get. You know, and take off 10, probably about 10% for communal areas, 10 to 15% tops. Depends on the nature of the building. This is a very simple square building, all open plan. So we've been able to be very efficient with the use of space on things like corridors and things like that. Other buildings will have bigger communal space. So again, check the communal space and open space in each building to see what sort of, you know, number you might have to knock off. You know, where's the core? You know, there's usually a brick core in some big buildings, and it's usually around the stairwell. On commercial buildings, they sometimes have a core for maybe the lift shaft. All the services run up through the middle of the building somewhere. That can take up quite a bit of space in a lot of commercial buildings, actually. I've seen commercial buildings with up to like 30% taken up from the floor space, which will dramatically change your gross development value, your GDV. That's your end value of what they're worth at the end once you've built it. So yeah, I guess quick and dirty way is you know, divide the number by the, you know, an average flat size. It'll give you a quick and dirty answer. But getting out the pen, marking stuff, get creative. If you've got a friendly architect who will do this sort of stuff fairly cheaply, fantastic. You know, you need that to work out the exact sizes of rooms. And then, you know, once you think it works, and then you've done a viewing, and maybe at the point of making an offer, that's when you spend a little bit of money with the architect, maybe to get it drawn up properly, make sure you've not made any mistakes. And you can start spending the money then. Once you've got a site under offer, you can really dive into due diligence, start spending money on some of the key consultants, take away the highest levels of risk first. You know, first thing is getting your GDV, your gross development value, right. Mess that up, you know, 5 flats less, that could be all your profit at the end of the site. So that's when your layouts then, you know, give it to the professional to draw up what you think it should look like. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to leave that the creative side to the architect. That's okay. You know, it's about knowing what your skills are in the property business and focusing on getting the right team members to fill the gaps of things you can't do and that they can do better than you. That's the key with the team. You know, I'm not an expert in every area by all means, but I have an expert team around me. And when I mentor people, it's all about using that team as well. So when we work together, and whether we JV together, however we would like to work with me, if there's anyone out there that's got their own site or keen to get into development, they've got some cash, they want to partner with us to tap into that network and help teach you and show you how it's done. You know, we're out there available for that, but it's all about that team and that expertise of people that are experts in the fields you know you're not good at. You know, I don't want to sit down and draw up the floor plans for like 10 hours in CAD. Really, really boring. I would hate that. You know, so sorry all architects out there, it's not my thing. But I love sketching them out and coming up with the idea and being creative and designing them and going in the rooms and marking them out with tape. You know, we often mark out tape in smaller sites, not this one because it was gigantic, but smaller sites and you know, something like 4,000 square foot, we'll mark out and measure rooms on the whole floor and stand in it and see, does this work? Is this big enough? So yeah, that's kind of my process for development sites. That's my process for how we kind of start finding them, some of the resources to use, how to analyse a bigger development site, and how to, you know, bring on the right team to help you finally deliver it, and when to start spending on that team at various stages during the negotiation to make sure you're not overspending on a site and you can, you know, get rid of the main risks first. That is key. Yeah, well, I guess that's all for now. Some good tips on, you know, how to source and analyse a major development site. I hope it's been useful. Please do subscribe. We really value you guys subscribing, joining us on the journey. We want to bring in this community to help you as much as possible on your own journeys. Tell me what you're up to. Tell me if you're sourcing a big commercial site at the moment. Tell us all about it. I'd love to hear more, and hope this video was helpful. See you on another video very soon.